Welcome to the School of Risk podcast, Marisha. It is amazing to have you here on the show. I can't wait to get into this. So please, let's start by getting to know who you are. Let our listeners know who you are, what you do. Oh my goodness, I've got tons of questions for you. So take the show away. Let us know who you are, please.
Okay. So, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I love this. I love that there is a podcast that is about the School of Risk. I love this because
thank you.
Risk is one of my favourite subjects. I have a few, and risk is one of them.
Amazing.
For those who don't know, my name is Merisha Stevenson. I am effectively a financial strategist, really. What I like to do is help people make money and, see if I can make a little bit in the process of doing that myself. One of my tools for doing that is to actually use risk management as a way of developing and growing businesses. So I've been in the business of growing businesses now for the best part of 20 years. And I also am a journalist and have worked in radio for the past 16 years. So basically, the aim is, if I'm not making money, I'm at least talking about making money. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm showing other people how to make more for themselves. So that's what we're out here trying to do.
And if you're not making money and you're talking about making money, you are still making money because it's on its way to you.
Well, yes. I mean, I do believe in abundance. I feel like we can have an abundant lifestyle. So, for me, there's no such thing as scarcity. And actually, what I will say is I've also learned over the years that as much as I do talk a lot about money, as I say to people, it's actually my second favourite subject. It's not my most favourite. And the main reason for that is because, money is just a resource. It's just a tool, as is, many other things in life. So it's not the be all and end. It's just...
Absolutely. I love how you put that money is a resource. And I like to think about it this way. It's like having a car and putting the fuel in the car. The money is just like the fuel you use to facilitate everything else that you want to achieve in your life, your purpose.
Absolutely. So fuel is important, but I've definitely been in a position where the fuel has run out and we pushed it. These things happen.
It does happen, yes. I like that. I've been in that situation as well.
Life.
It does happen. It is life. So how do we deal with this now? And this is one of the most important things that drives most of us. Is this fuel, this liquidity. In risk, we call it liquidity. It's having that liquid cash, to keep us going and facilitating everything else that we want to do. And it's a problem most people have, not knowing how to have that liquidity, that cash, that money to achieve what they want to achieve. Why do you think that is the case?
I think because most of the time, a lot of people that I come into contact with, and I myself, used to have an attitude around money that was actually based around scarcity. So, growing up and hearing so much about, I haven't got any money, I don't have any McDonald's money, don't ask me for no money, you're trying to pick that up off the shelf, put it back down, I ain't got any money. After going through all of these things, I think and even biblically, some of the messages as well that, we can receive through faith. The reality of the matter is that I feel that money is also always one of these things that seems to be reserved for the rich. And I think that what people don't realize very often is it's not necessarily what you have, it's what you do with what you have. It can take us sometimes to not have very much to actually understand how resourceful we can be. As they say, there's no such thing as a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. So I feel that it's really a situation where we put so much energy of not having enough around the resources that we do have, that it means that we don't actually feel abundant. And, one of the things that I talk to a lot about with my clients, particularly the ones who have challenges with their mindset, is, something that I learned a long time ago. And you know how it goes, Chizubel. You get to the point where you have your last £100 and you've got a bill that's £99. And the thing that runs through your mind is, oh my goodness, I'm not going to have any money left after I've paid this bill. Or I'm going to have £1 and it can just about buy some bread or milk. I'll have to pick one, kind of thing. And we have that mindset. Whereas I say to my clients now, don't look at it like that. Learn to look at it as, I've got £100 left. I've got this bill that's £99. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful that I have the ability to pay this bill. Because what you don't know is what's coming next. So rather than placing scarcity and saying there isn't enough, I won't have enough, there won't be any more, actually say, do you know what? I'm grateful for the ability to do what I can do in this moment. And I know that I will always have what I need when I need it. So I'm very much big on managing initially your mindset, and then that speaks to how you start to manage your resources, because I think then you start looking at what you have in a more abundant light and thinking about, how do I turn this into more, as opposed to, oh, I'm watching this run dry until the well is empty.
I love that point. And I want to dig deeper into that, the example of having the £100 and you've got a bill of £99 to pay. Now, one of the things that I've always, and I have been in that situation many times over in the past, but as I developed through life and, acquired the wisdom and knowledge that I have, the way I look at it now is, I've got that £100, I've got a bill of £99. What's more important? If it's a water bill or a gas or electric bill, why don't I negotiate my way out of that? Because if I pay that £99 and I've got £100, I've got a pound left.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, I've run out of liquidity. So how do I maintain that liquidity or stretch that liquidity further? Can I pick up the phone and negotiate with the provider? What do you think about that?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm one of the world's best beggars. Like, let's not mess about. I feel like there are certain habits that you can formulate throughout life that help that. So, I'm a big believer in what I call doing a quarterly, or at the very least a half yearly bills review. I call companies and I'm like, okay, see, I'm paying you money and we need to figure out how I'm going to pay you less. I've got to live over here and buy shoes. So, we can't do it all. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of negotiating. And I think that there are practices that you can develop into your everyday budgeting. I actually, last year, under my brand Financial Style, created what I call a Make Money calendar. And it's a wall calendar that anyone can place on the wall. But each month you have financial challenges. And the purpose of the money challenges is really to do exactly that. So it's to say, this month, have you reviewed your budget? What are you doing about debt?
You've got a solution for that already.
Well, there you go.
Amazing.
You work.
That's amazing.
Have you quizzed your accountant? Because I think very often, again, our relationship as business owners with our accountants can very often just be restricted to, here's my accounts, can you get that sorted, please? But actually, are you having conversations with your accountant that says, listen, these are my goals for the next 12 months. These are the things I want to do. How can you help me best position myself to do that? And what do I need to think about, tax-wise? Am I efficient? Do I need to do other things? So, the beautiful thing about the world that we currently live in is that information is freely available. You can look up so many things and there's so much you can find out by asking a question. So absolutely, how can I save more? How can I make more? How can I live in abundance? And sometimes, how can I just get that, whatever that is, without necessarily paying the full ticket price? Or can I rely on a relationship I have? Or can we do a quid pro quo? Or, I'm all for asking questions. So I'm not too proud to beg, as the song used to say.
I like that. Let's talk about, so moving on from, liquidity, one big area that, or I don't know, I'll call it a resource that's available to a lot of us or people in this part of the world is credits. We all have our individual credit risk to manage.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of credit.
Okay.
I like to pay cash, but I find out that when you don't have credit, that's not a good thing.
No.
Why?
We have to recognise that financial services, which I've spent a big part of my career working in and around, is an industry. It's a recession-proof industry. When the pandemic happened, you didn't hear anybody in financial services worrying about what they were going to eat.
Mm-mm.
And your question around credit is one of the reasons why. It's an industry that is structured around making money out of people and making money from people. And so you end up in a situation where, again, I try to advise people to look at credit from a different standpoint. So I agree. If it's about credit, to get a credit card, to simply go and buy, a lot of shoes, I will say that a lot. I'm a big fan of shoes. I'm just letting you know. Then yeah, it's probably not.
We all have our things that we like and stuff.
Yeah, for me, shoes. But anyway, if that's the purpose, then yeah, it's definitely not really the best idea. And all you're realistically doing is running up debt. If you learn to use credit as a financial instrument, which effectively it is, and the problem is that it tends to be an instrument that makes money for the financial institutions that offer it. But you yourself as an individual, if you learn to do the same sort of thing, you can benefit from credit. So, for example, if you're interested in investments, developing a good credit score allows you very often to start making investments using other people's money. So, again, like I'm going to try and not give away the whole of my business, but to give an example.
They need to pay for that.
Well, this is the thing.
So we'll talk about that in a minute. I want people to get to know a little bit more about what you do and why they need you. Go on.
Yeah. So, but practical example. Okay. So, I'm a female. That means that I like to buy stuff. I know not all women do, but I do. And and I like to keep a nice home. So, for example, I'm sitting here right now thinking, right, I'd like a new kitchen. Realistically, these days, you're looking at the best part of £20,000 for a decent kitchen. Now, you have a choice on how you can go about approaching this. So what I could do, I've got a decent credit score, so I could go out right now and I could say, hi, store, this is the kitchen I'd like. They're going to say it's about £20,000. I'm going to say, well, I haven't really got all of that right now. So I'll tell you what, can I get a little bit of credit? They go, yeah, no problem. We'll give you 4 years or 3 years to pay it off or whatever. Pick a box, sign here, job done. We'll be there next week to fit your kitchen. I could do it that way. Or I can exercise a little bit of patience and a little bit of strategy. So instead, I'm like, okay, one of the things that I am in the process of doing is developing a portfolio, doing it gradually over a period of time, as people do. So instead of me going to a store and getting credit from there to pay for my new kitchen, I'm just going to wait until I purchase another property. And when I do that, I will have a lump sum of money. And then from that lump sum, I will use part of it to purchase another property, the other part of it to pay for my kitchen. And guess who's paying for it? The tenant.
That's a good strategy.
Well, this is it, but it still allows me to get what I want, but it means I have to be a little bit more strategic and I have to think about effective ways to use the credit allocation that I have. So I'm still using that credit, but I'm using that credit to make more money to finance the big things in my life that keep my daily costs low, which right now is really important in Boris's England, because I don't know what he's trying to do to us and our budgets. And at the same time, think about how to build for the future and set up a way to have residual income. So sometimes that's about sitting and thinking. And I'll be honest, 10 years ago, I would have just bought the kitchen. Like, I'm not even playing.
Yes.
But a little bit later on in life, you learn lessons, you understand the benefits, and you understand what these tools are designed to do. It makes you change the way you use them.
Absolutely. And I believe this is where you come in terms of what you do to help a lot of people who are not astute when it comes to planning, strategizing and things like that. So why should someone get you to help them? Why should someone help your service? How do you, so if I come to you now and say, this is me, I've got some money, I'm working, and say, for example, I want to buy a house. I don't know how to go about it. I don't know how to, beyond the house, build a wealth that will last me, for as long as I live. Because I'm not financially savvy. Okay. How can you help people like that? If that was the case with me or anybody else.
Okay, well, I mean, I go back again to a biblical reference. They say you can give a man a fish or you can teach him how to.
Yeah.
I'm very much into financial education. My radio show, Financial Style, for the last 16 years has been focused on that. It's talking through things. But I'm also a human being, And what I mean by that is, I'm the sort of person that, I work out every day, but every so often I like to eat cake too, So yeah. I believe that you have to deal with people based on what's important to them and allow them to become educated in the areas that are going to support them. I'm a big fan of intelligence. So when I say intelligence, I mean data and utilizing that data. So the people who work with me, firstly, I'm going to get to the root of what is it you're trying to achieve? Where do you want to go? But actually, as part of that, who are you and what's important to you and what matters to you? Because there's going to be one person where we'll say, okay, you want to purchase a house. I'll tell you what, we can work out a budget that allows you to do that in the next 12 months. And that person can live on, 15 pence cola and 9 pence rice and save all of their money and make it happen. That would fit one person.
Yes.
But person might say, well, actually, that's not possible for me. I've got young children, I've got commitments, I've got debt, I've got other things I need to think about. So from that point of view, for me, it's always about taking somebody very much from the place where they are, taking into account who they are, what matters to them, what's going to feed their soul and what's going to help them feel like they're progressing and moving forward. But at the same time, being serious about the fact that they must move forward. So I like people to see results, but results that are in line with not just what they want to achieve, but how their lives work. And for businesses, I like to take an approach that is very much structured around intelligence. So what do you know about your business? There's a lot of people that run businesses that, they may know the basics in terms of what their business does, how it does it, how they deliver value to their customers. But do you benchmark against your competitors? Do you know what the risks and opportunities in your industry are? Do you understand what's likely to happen in the next 6 or 12 months? Do we know what the next budget that's coming out from the Chancellor is going to say and how that's going to impact your bottom line? So that's the sort of information I like to give my business clients that then gives them a basis to build their own strategy and to understand how to navigate for their own growth.
That is absolutely important. And this definitely, highlights the importance of using people like you, your services, to achieve the goals that we want to achieve financially. And one thing that I came across when I was looking at some of the information you have on your website, and I love this. I've never heard about anyone doing this before. You provide a coaching service for financial coaching service for couples who are getting married. Can you spend a bit of time and let me and our listeners know a bit about this? Because I feel that this is incredible, because a lot of people get married and couples do what they do, but they don't think about collaborating financially. So I see this as an asset for any couple to have. You go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting to me that when people consider compatibility, they very rarely think about financial.
Yeah.
Yet we know that finances is one of the main reasons why relationships break down. So what I like to do with my couples with the financial coaching is firstly get them to understand how and where they're financially compatible. And even if they're not, because sometimes we're complete opposites, you know, are you a spender? Are you a saver? And I've heard lots of weird and wonderful conversations where people believe they can change their partner's approach to finance. And I'm sitting there in the corner usually thinking, no, you're not. Because again, our individual and personal relationships with money can very often be intrinsically linked with the relationships we have with ourselves, our belief systems, our upbringing, all of those things. It's not so easy. So it's not just that person's frugal or that person's irresponsible. It's very often linked to other things. So the purpose of the coaching service is, first, couples understand what their individual personalities are in relation to money and what their triggers and drivers are. Secondly, then it's about them figuring out how they work that together. So, for example, if, you know, I'm the spender in the relationship, you might not want to leave all of the spare money in my bank account, okay? Because I might just go to the supermarket to get myself and spend it all, okay? So it then allows for, you know, compromise to work best to pull things together. And then the next thing is, how do we look at our financial goals? Now, generally speaking, people will have their individual financial goals, but then if you're in a marriage or a long-term relationship, you will also hope that you have joint financial goals. So what do those goals look like? And how do we put our finances as a couple in a space where we honor our relationship and we build our joint goals, but also honor ourselves and recognize the things that we need? So, for example, and this, again, I'm generalizing hugely, but it is something that I see a bit of anecdotal evidence in. So what I find is that it tends to be that the men in the relationships tend to be a little bit more cognizant of spending. They know how much money they've got. They, you know, they do not accidentally spend it on a pair of shoes and not quite know how that happened. They tend to be a little bit more, shall we say, disciplined when they have a financial goal. And that can be they need a new car, or there's a baby on the way, or there's a wedding to pay for, or there's a house to buy. Men can very often get very focused in on what it is that needs to happen. Women tends to be that we're like, yeah, we want all of those things, but we also want the shoes. So how do we find the compromise between the two? And so, for example, there might be situations where what we work out is an arrangement and a budget across both together, where actually Mrs. gets a little bit extra to spend on frivolous things that might not matter to husband, but actually just keeps her happy. Might be a very small budget, but it keeps her going. And then he gets oversight now of the savings arrangements and ensures that the right things go into it. And then they come back together at the end of each month to say, right, where are we and what do we need to do for the next month? One thing I say, and this is quite controversial for some people, but if you can't share a bank account, I don't think you should be sharing a bed.
It shouldn't be. Absolutely. Okay. This is another controversial thing here that I'm going to
go on then.
Is this right or is this true?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a relationship. Let's say you're my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically speaking, listeners, she's not my wife. We're just saying.
Yeah.
We're both working.
Mm-hmm.
As I've heard a million times, my money is your money, but your money is your money.
Well, I mean,
you must have heard that. You must have heard that before.
Well, I'm a woman.
A lot of people
I've quoted it a couple of times.
A lot of people believe that in reality, though, and think that, you know, the woman's money should stay with her and the man's money is for everybody else. What's your take on that?
I
know we're being a little bit it's a little bit more satirical, but you know,
it's a real question, and it's a real
controversy around that.
Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to what are the goals of the couple, and I think that fundamentally becomes what it's about, because realistically, if you really want to break it down, in a marriage, we should have actually shared resources. And so regardless of who's earning this money, there should be that ability for us to see how the resources we have play into the household. So, you know, I fundamentally feel like the what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine mindset at this stage is outdated when we think about the fact that actually a lot of people out here want to be in power couples. And if you want to be in that sort of situation and environment, then you have to play to the strengths of yourself and to your partner. And so that may be financial strength. One person might earn a lot more than the other, but the other actually might be more resourceful and creative with that. It might be that, you know, you're bringing different things into the pot. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. At the same time, as a female, of course, I would love to be in the space of going, what's yours is mine and what's mine is absolutely mine. But at the same time, if I'm your wife, realistically, what is mine is ours. What is yours is ours. And if we are working towards joint goals, which I believe every partnership, certainly in marriage also, should be doing that. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, I love and romance. I really do. And I love nothing more than seeing people in love and seeing all of that. That warms my heart. But I feel like they say marriage is an institution for a reason, and it should be. And it should be a business on which you base your goals and your attributes and the things that you do moving forward. And so when we think about compatibility, I feel that compatibility is not just centered in the physicality and the sexuality. It's in the, what is our legacy? What are our goals? What do we want to do with the wealth that we're accumulating for future generations? And what does that look like? And when you're having that conversation, there isn't really space for what's yours is yours and what's mine.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is incredible, and that is so true. I love how you broke it down, and I hope that this, you know, message resonates with a lot of couples, because like you said earlier, you know, money is one of the things that breaks a lot of marriages up, and it's a sad thing. So I think it's a wonderful thing that you have done to have this financial coaching service for couples. When did you start that? I mean, do people know about it? Because I feel the whole world needs to hear about it and just flood your account, flood your page, or flood your office with requests to work with them. How is it going? Have you had a lot of couples? And
do you know, I find that now, honestly speaking, I do find that the couples that have come to me and the couples that I work with, usually, if I'm honest, I feel like it's like the same approach people take to therapy. They wait until something's gone wrong and then they go, right, we need to fix this. And then they almost come to me in a form of crisis, like, how do we sort this out? And it's very often the case that maybe one person has debt, or one person feels he's spending out of control and the other person's trying to rein it back in, and there's arguments and all sorts of things happening. I personally feel like it's the sort of thing that, you know, if you've heard of things like premarital counselling, I feel like it's the sort of thing that people actually should engage in actually a lot earlier, and not as a way to solve a problem, but actually as a way to almost create a strategy for how they move forward. You know, as I say, I mean, any partnership in life needs us to work out how we're going to work together and where our strengths lie. And I feel like often I unfortunately deal with lots of couples that are almost in crisis. And I would love to deal with more couples who actually are going, do you know what? You know, he's just proposed and this is brilliant, but now we need to think about what our future looks like, you know. Or even the converse of that, where sometimes people are really nervous to talk about money. This is a really good platform for doing that, because there's no judgment from me. And for example, if you have a couple that come along and one says, listen, I've got a shocking credit record, but my other half wants to buy a house and they're in a position to do that, but I don't think I am in a position to do that. What does that look like? Well, first of all, let's take the shame out of the conversation.
Thank you for saying that.
Stuff.
You know, it's really
we've all been through stuff, so let's take that out of it. Let's come up with a form of understanding and mutual compromise and understanding around things. And you know what? For me, having a conversation about money is actually a form of intimacy and a form of that I think that people should really nurture.
Yeah.
So come early. Don't wait for it all to go wrong.
I mean, seriously, I have to take note of these really important points you're making here. And I love what you said about talking about money is a form of building intimacy. And a lot of times couples, think intimacy is all about the physical and the romance and all that, but it's way beyond that. So this is really important that a lot of couples who are contemplating marriage start early. Have you thought about developing this into some kind of a couples financial school or something like that?
Well, when it comes to schools, I might need your expertise on helping me how to build it into a school. I haven't, but what I will say...
And a course as well, and maybe an online course as well.
Yeah, no, very true. Because we all have financial personalities, and to understand what they are. Because, I mean, to give an example, I'm very much a spender. I always say to people, if you want to understand the financial personality that I'm coming from, my mother went on holiday for a long weekend and she came back with a house. She literally impulse bought a holiday home. So to say
that is a good purchase.
I mean, technically, but the point being is that for where some people will spend a lot of time making that sort of decision, I mean, she made that decision on spec. And, honestly speaking, I come from an environment where, it's almost like you put everything on the counter. You don't even think about how much it adds up to. And when they give you the total, as long as there's enough in your bank account, you go, yeah, that's it, it's done. And then tomorrow you worry about the rest. And because I know that about myself and learned that about myself, as an example, I do not window shop. Like, window shopping is not a thing that exists in my life. Window shopping is, I'm going to spend some money. So if I know that I don't want to spend any money, I just don't put myself in that environment. But I say all of that to say that, when you understand those factors about yourself, it allows you to develop your activities in line with that. And that even comes back to the conversation of risk, because another thing I found in the world of business. So I think probably where my couples coaching actually really started it was long before it was a financial thing. It was more to do with my business clients, because I would have business clients who would declare things like, right, we're going to go and buy that building over there for my business and develop a great business strategy on what that looks like. And the men in particular. And I'd be like, quick question. Have you told your wife? Well, I'll tell her later. And I'm like, no, I need to know for 2
weeks. That was my dad. He never told my mom anything he did.
This is it. And to be fair, my dad's the same. But the problem is this. It's, well, number one, you see that building you just bought across the road, she's going to know that now you live there. Because in order for you to develop that building, to do all the things you're going to need to do, you're going to spend a lot of time there. So she's going to need to know where she can find her husband when she needs him. Yeah. And secondly, you may well be committing a huge financial burden to the family. And, again, just consultation with your partner, I think, is important. So I would very often send men home to have conversations with their wives about some of the business decisions that they were making, and even would sit down then with them as a couple and explain to the wife what's going on, particularly if her risk tolerance was a lot lower than his.
Yes.
And she'd be worrying and thinking, yeah, but we got to feed little Sammy next week. And he's going, oh, don't worry, it'll all get sorted. And, and sometimes I'm sitting in between them like, okay, so what that means is we've honestly got a plan and we're going to, but risk tolerance is a really big thing, because again, it can inform the decisions that you make as a couple, and also the things that you end up arguing about.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. I love the point. I love that you brought up the point about risk tolerance, because everyone is no one's risk tolerance is the same. And when you are getting into a relationship, getting ready to get married, you have to understand these levels of tolerance. And I think this is where your couple's financial coaching comes in. And I mean, this is just my imagination. I don't know, but I feel that that is so important, but at the same time, maybe quite challenging, because you are trying to break down cultural, long term, or how do I put this? A barrier, a cultural barrier that has been in place for so long, because men are used to doing things a certain way, women are used to doing things a certain way, but not common that they come together to think about the importance of finance in their relationship. And that is why I feel this is so important. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, and I want listeners to really think about this, because I'm sure more than 70 or 80%, or if not 100%, whether they're married or not married, want to get married someday or want to be in a relationship someday. And this is really important, and it could save a lot of relationships.
Yeah, like I say, I feel like it's about basis. And you're right. I mean, there are times when it is very challenging. It's more challenging when you have a couple in crisis, because the problem you have then is you're dealing with emotional barriers and all of those things that come up, and you have to work with that. And that's why, for me, I would love more couples to come to me earlier, to engage in this sort of conversation. But actually, really what's underlying in all of this, and I think that this is the case for relationships in general, it just happens to be that money is the subject in this instance, is that I think a lot of people have to learn to be more self-aware and understand more about themselves and their own habits. And ultimately what happens is, even though I'm coaching the couple on how to work more closely together, usually what I'm able to do with that is help them to see themselves and each other more clearly, and in a way that does start to remove that judgment. Because a lot of times we judge things that we don't understand. I don't know why he does that. I don't know why she must do that. Whereas actually, when they both have a space to say, well, maybe this is the reason why I did it, or these are the reasons why these things are happening, that breakdown in those barriers allows them then to find ways to compromise. And then it's not always about people completely changing who they are. I don't believe in that.
No, it's not about that.
We are who we are, and we're allowed to be who we are. I think it's more about me saying, okay, if I know that, I'm being frugal today, and you're actually, out here going, oh, it's fine, everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, but I don't know if it is going to be fine. Let's unpick what those two things are about, and what that means about how we communicate with each other, and how we give each other understanding, and how we give each other grace. And it just happens to be that in this situation, the subject's money. But what I would like to think is that conversation allows the couples in general to have better communication across wider issues. Because I don't specialize in parenting or, sex or any of those subjects. But I bet you, if they're struggling to have those conversations about their finances, which is a very personal and intimate thing, they'll have the same challenges in other areas that are just personal and just as intimate.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it helps a little bit of a wider environment. I don't take credit for that. I'm just trying to help you build your bank account as a couple,
Absolutely. No, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Now, and just to add on top of that, globally now, a lot of people are just, recovering or beginning to recover from the impact of the pandemic. And, most people have been financially impacted. And I think a lot of people woke up to the fact that, okay, I need to prepare myself in case something like this was to happen again, because it's the first time the entire world was put into, some kind of darkness and people were beginning to worry about things that they never worried about before. What should people do to have the financial stability that can get them through crisis like this? Because I think it's going to happen again. We're kind of having almost a similar, not as bad as the corona, virus financial crisis, but we've got Russia crisis, Russia-Ukraine crisis, and the prices of things. Inflation is on the rise, and it's like a double whammy, for some people.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I've said this on numerous occasions that I really, really sympathise for anybody who's been living on the breadline. I mean, for the people who maybe got through the pandemic just about and, just on the edge of their budget, and then all of a sudden, you watch everything go up in price. This morning, I went for a run first thing this morning and then ran to the supermarket after that. And I think I was in the chicken aisle, and a poor woman just looked at me with dismay and just said the prices have gone up again.
Wow.
Again, and picture like this, I live in a village, and I feel like when, elderly people who don't know me engage in conversation, without any prompting, that's a point of desperation. The poor woman was just exasperated. And so the reality is, it's tough. It's tough for a lot of people. But what I think I would say to that is a couple of things. I think the pandemic, taking away the tragedy of the death and the challenges that people had and the losses that they had, taking that to the side for a second, though not to minimize.
Sure.
The pandemic offered a lot of blessings. The pandemic was a blessed period. And I believe that because it demonstrated something. There are lots of businesses out there that we can argue can't withstand a recession. But actually, being in the business of people will always withstand any situation or circumstance, because there's always people. And when we gear what we do to offering value to people in a way that we know is meaningful, I think you find a way. I think what I say to people is there's a mix of practical things that you can do and maybe some of the things that are slightly less tangible, but are also really important. The non-tangibles for me is challenge your mindset. Ask yourself the questions, just what do I think about on a day-to-day basis as it pertains to my money? What comes out of my mouth? Am I speaking in a way that places scarcity over my income? And actually, one thing I say to people, and this is hard, but so important, try to remove worry from your energy, because worry is negative energy. And so try not to worry. And one of the things that I do personally, that if I ever worry or I ever think, oh, this could be a moment to worry, is I stop myself and I say, hang on, I know that I will always have what I need. Money's only a resource. And as I say to people, like I say, I live in a village. If it's past 7 p.m. of an evening and I need food, and there's no food, all the money in the world is not going to feed me because there's no shops open. Mm-hmm. So always focus on the resource that you need and recognize that it's not always money. So I feel like that's important for the intangibles. And then for the tangible things, the practical things, be conscious and aware of your budget. Don't bury your head in the sand. If you're worried about being able to manage things or maintain things like your credit limit, whilst I don't advocate this, I always say that when we get to points of desperation, we have to do what we have to do. So focus on paying the bills that you know are going to impact your credit score. And if there's something else that you know is less impactful on credit, then it might be that you can allow yourself to cover that a couple of days later than maybe you normally would. Do a bills review. Contact organisations. Let them know if you're struggling. Many organisations, including your bank, have a legal requirement to not put you in further financial stress. For that reason, if you miss a direct debit, for example, and the bank charges you, if it's going to put you under further financial pressure, contact your bank and tell them that. Very often, they will refund it. Don't get me wrong, do not use it as a mechanism for managing your finances now, but it can be a way that it just doesn't put you in more dire straits. ask for help. There are debt agencies out there, again, who are specialists in supporting you and helping you to rearrange your debt if that is a challenge. Do what you can to save. So this is the time to not get too excited in the shops. And if you can save a little bit extra, do it, because we don't know what the next 12 months is going to look like in terms of day-to-day costs. And you just really want to get savvy about how you do and get the things that you want to get. So for me, whether that is me asking a provider to reduce a bill or asking them how I can save more money, whether that is me just making sure I switch off the radiators in the rooms that I'm not using, like just on a weekly basis, I'll just stop and ask myself the question, am I doing what I can do? I've got to be honest, Boris has got me in a bit of a panic. If I come in my house and it's warm, I'm like, yo, we need to turn off these radiators because we got to hold this, okay? And we need to put on a sweater, okay? But, you have to just do the practical things. And you know what? I know this might sound really weird and people might think she's mad to say this.
Yeah, that's it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Have fun with it. Treat it like a challenge, not a problem. Because guess what? Challenges have solutions, as do problems, but challenges are fun and challenges make you think outside the box and recognize that, like I said early on in this discussion, there is just no such thing as a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. There's always a way to do something. And if you don't know the way, ask. And if you got nobody to ask, look in the mirror and ask yourself, because you will be surprised where answers come from. And sometimes they come from the strangest of places and they come in a way that you wouldn't even expect. But when you know deep down that you're not going to stop until you get to where you need to be, you're going to get there. So just keep pressing, cry occasionally if you have to. We've all got to get the emotions out of our system.
Get out.
Don't suppress it now, but believe that you're going to be okay, because we were not brought to this point for no reason. And like I say, some of the biggest tragedies in this world are just the biggest blessings, and we don't know. I know the pandemic gave me a different outlook on certain things. It gave me a chance to contemplate what I was doing. It gave me a chance to think about how I was adding value. It made me think about what I was passionate about. And it made me realign some of those focuses to say, do you know what, moving forward, this is what I want to give to the world. And that gift is bigger than money. So I know there's always going to be a way that it will be facilitated. We'll get there. We will.
Where's my mic? Mic drop. Oh my goodness, you've dropped some really, really, really important and valuable wisdom here. And I thank you so much. And I know listeners are going to really benefit from this. What you do is amazing.
Thank you.
What you do is amazing. And I'm glad that I met you, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because it's going to open up the doors to many more conversations and more things we can do to help people out there. So this is really one of my best episodes so far.
Oh, bless
you so
and
much.
Thank you for opening up the School of Risk
podcast. Yes. Life is a risk.
Yes.
And everything we've talked about in here is part of managing that risk of life. So the School of Risk podcast is here to educate people, me, you, everyone out there, on how to manage our lives and business and everything that comes with it, so we can achieve what it is we want to achieve out of life. Absolutely. And you know what? You are a superhero, but I know every superhero has got a superhero. And this is my last question. Who is your superhero? Or rather, now that we're doing the whole she, he, him, her, whatever thing, who's your superhero? And what do you have in common with them that makes them your superhero or superhero?
I'm going to be naughty. Can I have two?
Two. You're going to pay for the extra one. No, yeah, you can have to. Please, go ahead.
Okay, do you know what? It's going to be a bit of a boring answer, really. But actually, it's my mom and my dad. And I'll tell you why. They, I feel, have given me the perfect combination. My mom is work hard. My dad is work smart.
Wow.
And they, between them, actually set a really good example for helping me to develop into that strategist and not just be the person that says, we're going to make it to the end, which I get that tenacity from my mom, but then my dad who says, and how do we do it with the least amount of effort with the maximum reward? So actually, I've got to give it to both of them at the moment. Don't tell them, but, because I've got to keep a little bit in reserve.
They might listen to this podcast.
But yeah.
It's amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. And you're the first person to, quote their parents, both parents as their superheroes and super sheroes. And I like that I said superhero and sheroes, and that fits very well with your parents. Is that where you got the idea for the couples counseling?
No. But do you know what? Having said that, though, what I will say is that they did teach me something about the dynamic of relationships. Because if people ever meet my parents, they split very early in my life. But if people ever meet my parents, most of them ask the question, how? They're like, how? And I'm like, because it was a blessed day and God knew that I needed to come into the world. But actually, it really speaks a lot to dynamic. So, like I say, it's really weird. They're chalk and cheese, but I don't know why. I feel like it works okay. It works for me.
Amazing. You are phenomenal. Seriously, you are phenomenal. You are amazing. I'm glad, we met. And this is just the beginning to whatever it is that we've got to do in the future and all that stuff. So I'm glad I had you here to have this conversation. You are inspiring. There are lots of questions I had, but if we carry on, we're not going to end today. We're not going to end it. We might actually need to do a part 2, actually. We might need to do a part 2, in the future, but, we'll see. But I know that I want to get you into, hopefully speak at my next event.
No, I'd be honoured to. Thank you. As I say, I think it's a fantastic platform and it's been a lovely chat and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I've never asked anyone to do this, so you're going to be the first.
Okay.
Any last words for our listeners?
Yeah, I think I would simply say this, and this is something that I use every single day for myself. I want to share it with everyone. Just remember that, as I said before, the gift you have to give this world is far greater than any resource. So there is nothing that can stop the power of what you have to give. And so whenever you are concerned that you might not have enough, or if you feel like the well is running a little bit dry, just stop, close your eyes and remind yourself that you always have what it is you need. And then open your eyes and see what happens next.
See, that's why I said you're incredible. You are incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
And on that note, I don't want to close the show. I don't want to end this. I wish I could but we got to go make money.
We do.
Yes. But thank you so much. It's been amazing. And I'm honored to have had this opportunity with you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Risk takers, ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing time we just had listening to Merisha Stevenson share these important lessons and tips on how to make your life or business a profitable one. What did you find most important for you on this podcast today? Was it learning that as a couple you can build deeper intimacy by talking openly about money? Or was it learning how to use credit as a financial instrument? Or the powerful last words, which I found so inspiring? Let us know by leaving us a voice message using the link in the show bio. Check out our previous shows to learn from past guests. Also, click the follow or subscribe button to be notified when we release new shows every week. I am your host, your risk champ, Chizubele Gudo, here on the School of Risk podcast. I want to leave you with this thought before closing. Pay attention to this. Every high ground requires effort to reach the top. Every unknown knowledge requires effort to acquire wisdom. And when you have that wisdom, you can reach that higher ground of opportunities and reward that you seek. Until next time, thank you for listening and stay blessed.